Hey everyone, it's 10 Types, and today I have a really cool video for you all. Today I have a special guest here with me today, one of my friends, Funky Fizz, a competitive Magic player, right?
Yeah. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say like super professional, but I did play a few tournaments a few years ago, and it was very fun. I played a lot of modern and like CEDH.
Yeah, and then, so you're like loosely familiar with the Pokemon TCG, right?
Yep, I played a handful of games.
And obviously, you know some stuff probably just from like overhearing me, but today I have a bunch of cards for you that are all the cards are either good or bad. I imagine almost everyone watching these will be pretty clear as to what the good cards and the bad cards are. I suppose if you have like a cool use for some of the bad cards, or if you think some of the like quote good cards are not good, leave it down below in the comment section. But yeah, as I said, all the cards are either good or bad, and I'm just gonna have you take a look at the cards and tell me what you think about the cards. So, sound all good to you?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, so we got the first card here, which is Nemona. So I figured I'd also have you read out the cards, like what it does, and then you can ask me any questions and then give your thoughts on it.
Okay, so we got Nimona, it's a supporter trainer, draw three. From what I know of the game, well, I guess it says it on the card, you can only play one supporter card per turn. And these are kind of like integral cards to the deck, you'd say, right?
Yeah, supporters are certainly something you should see in every deck and are decently important.
Gotcha. From what I've seen, and like the few limited matches I've played, you can on average draw like a lot more than just three cards, like with one trainer, right? Or do they try to keep it a little bit more in line for standard?
Um, there's definitely differences. Wait, what do you mean first? So I know you played theme, and then standards like the I guess constructed format where you like make decks. Um, so yes, standard is going to be like the stronger cards. Yeah, stronger than the theme
Gotcha.
cards.
If I was coming from like a Magic background, this card would be like insane. Draw three for. I mean, I suppose since you can only play one per turn, that's a cost, but draw three for nothing other than just having it in your hand is crazy. But I don't think this is very good. I think there's just better cards that do the same thing as this one.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say I don't think this one's good, specifically for Pokemon.
yeah. This card is pretty bad. It's been printed. Like this specific card has been printed a few times. But a card that draws you three on a supporter has been printed like a lot. And it's bad. It's kind of made fun of in the Pokemon TCG scene some.
Yeah.
It's not like the worst card ever. I'd say it might be hated on a little too much, but yeah, as you said, you hit the nail on the head. The supporters, a lot of them are going to be drawing you more cards. Some have some downsides. Like there's a supporter that lets you discard your hand, makes you discard your hand, and then you draw seven new cards. Discarding your hand isn't too bad. Drawing seven cards is really good. Obviously a
Yeah.
lot more than three. Also
Yeah,
there's a
I think that's the one card that I've seen that was kind of what I was basing my opinion on because I mean discarding your hand it is a cost, but seven is just a lot of cards.
Yeah, and then there's a new
Good deal
supporter that it came out recently in the most recent wait what's today. I think it's the most recent set at the time of releasing this, and it's a card that you shuffle your hand into your deck and then you draw eight cards at the beginning of the game. Later on, it might be drawing you six cards, which shuffle draw six is still very good, but shuffle draw eight's like absurd. So yeah, Navona is pretty bad. There have been some cards also that are a supporter that's like draw three, and then there's a little bit of upside on it, which
hmm
sometimes see play. A lot of them don't, but some do.
Gotcha.
But now we can move on to the next card, the first Pokemon here, which is Gyarados EX.
Yeah, I'm kind of scared because I've really got nothing to base this off of for these. But I do know a few things. So with oh, actually, I did have a question because I've forgotten now. When you evolve a Pokemon, it keeps um the energy that's already on it, correct?
Yeah. So the way evolution works as a whole is, yeah, it keeps the energy, all the stuff on it. And then you cannot evolve a Pokemon the turn it's played unless there's something like special. So it is like a timer of one turn in that sense. This is a stage one here. You want to read out its stats?
Yeah, sure. It has 300 HP. As long as this Pokemon is on your bench, prevent all damage done to it by Pokemon attacks. It has for three energy, waterfall for 100. And then for 3 blue and 5 of any color, it has Tyrannical Tail, 180. If your opponent's active Pokemon already has any damage counters on it, this attack does 180 more damage.
Yep.
Okay.
And it also does have a weakness to lightning, no resistance. Most cards don't, and then a retreat cost of 4, and yeah, and it's water type. I don't think you said that. That doesn't matter too much, but I was wondering what like things you'd read from it and what things you wouldn't read from it. But yeah. So what are your thoughts?
Okay. So, first off, is there anything specific about EX that I should know of,
Oh
like
yes, at the
mechanic
bottom
wise?
it gives up 2 prize cards. Yeah. So normally a regular card gives up 1, an EX gives up 2. There's actually some newer ones that give up 3. But yeah, it gives up 2 prize cards. You need 6 to win the game. So if 3 of these are knocked out, you lose. As opposed to 6 regular Pokemon, you can like mix and match as well.
Okay, so is the idea behind these Pokemon is that it's like since it evolves straight from Magikarp, you get like you're able to rush out like a more powerful Pokemon, but you're much more punished if it gets taken out.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. I suppose what I'm looking at most on this is Tyrannical Tail as an ability. Um, what immediately comes to me is that like 5 energy. I know that you can only play one per turn without some other shenanigans with uh tools and things that I'm not really familiar with. And is 180 damage, is that worth it for 5 energy? Um, I don't. I don't know. I'm leaning towards it's like a little bit too hard to use. I get that it becomes 360 if now damage counters means that like they've already been attacked, right?
Yeah, there are ways to do it without attacks as well. That do exist in the
Oh,
game.
okay. Hmm. Okay, that does change things quite a bit. Uh, Now when you're playing this game, are you ever limited by like the color of energy that you're using, like
Um,
to put certain cards in the deck?
I mean, most decks are just one type. I mean, most decks have one main Pokemon that they're attacking with in general.
Mhm.
So like if
I
you were
mean,
playing
I
this as
should
your
have
main Poke,
specified like sorry, I should have specified like supporters and like stadiums
oh
and
no,
other items and things like that. Okay.
there's like a tiny bit, but it's pretty minimal.
Okay. Um, I feel like a deck that would care about doing this could probably make this work. Then, if that's the case, I think knowing that you can deal damage, to just like get damage counters on something without needing to directly attack. Um, I don't think that this sounds like game breaking, but I do think that this sounds playable. Like I could see this being played.
Wait, so you're saying this is like a good card, as in good, as in competitively strong, not like broken, but just like pretty good,
Yeah,
or
yeah. Like
okay,
I think this could see play.
okay. No, it does not see any play.
Oh, no, it
Unfortunate.
does it.
No, this card is so 5 energy is like a lot. There are ways to pay
Yeah.
it. There are ways to get energy on it. One thing that you didn't actually notice, 300 HP is like a lot. It's not the highest in the game, but it's very high.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean 180 is just not that much. There are ways to get damage counters on your points active Pokemon. They're a little clunky. They're not like completely free by any means. So yeah, there's just better options, specifically with the energy. 5 energy is a lot. 5 energy is the most of any attack, unless you're going into some like
Oh, okay.
weird territory. Yeah, so that's a lot there. Also, 4 retreat cost is also the most, which is yeah,
I did see the 4 retreat cost, which was concerning, but I was like, okay, if you put this thing out, I feel like you probably just want to sit there and try to bulldoze the entire enemy team with it if you can actually make it played.
yeah. Ultimately, Pokemon aren't really going to be like one Pokemon's not going to be taking over the game usually. So you need to be
Hmm.
setting up multiple of these, and then that becomes it is kind of doable, but it's I mean, there's a basic Pokemon. So the way you get the energy on this is a Pokemon called Excalibur, which is okay. It's not really played in standard right now, but it certainly was played. Um, that card came out the set after this, and Excalibur was played when it came out. So it came out. So that could get the energy on. But there's also a basic Pokemon that did. It was essentially like about as strong, a bit more versatile, and a bit more consistent. And it had less HP, but in general, it's just better here. So yeah, just your
Hmm.
damage isn't what we were looking for the or the amount of setup and the amount of and the payoff just doesn't quite align here.
Now, I do have a quick question. there are items that like can force your opponent to swap a benched Pokemon with the active Pokemon, right? Or am I misremembering?
I don't know. Let's go on to the next card here.
Okay.
So you want to read it? It's boss's orders here.
Oh, switch in one of your opponent's bench Pokemon to the active spot. Okay. Um, when a Pokemon is switched by a card like this, does um does it lose the energy that's attached to it?
No. It'll
Okay.
lose. It essentially keeps all the stuff. There's like a few things that were removed, but for the most part, it stays the same.
Um, there's no way that this is unplayable, right? Like, there's no way. I mean, there's always got to be some utility for this card. It might not be meta defining, but like, I could see this being useful in so many different ways. Like, to sneak out, like if your opponent just puts out like a basic Pokemon on their bench, then you could just like force to swap and then attack and instantly take it out, right?
Yeah, you could do something like that.
It is your one supporter card per turn. I don't know. I still think this is good. I'm gonna go with my gut reaction is that this is a good card.
Yeah, this card is very good. It might be the best card in the game. I'm not sure. There's debate on
Okay.
that. It's very good. It's arguably like um, I wouldn't really say Pokemon has win conditions. Like Magic has win conditions, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is kind of if people talk about win conditions, they sometimes bring up this card. I mentioned, two prize Pokemon. There's one prize Pokemon, and you want to be able to generally take two Pokemon or two prizes every turn, knocking out one of your opponent's EXs. And so you can use Boss Orders to get that. There are some other cards that are similar. Boss Orders is just the most universal of them. But the other ones, there's a few others that are decent as well. But ultimately, yeah, you can use it to knock out what you want. If you're otherwise your opponent's bench Pokemon are very safe, and so yeah, this is just the way to go after them. It's very good. It can also be used to get certain Pokemon stuck in the active spot.
Mhm.
A Pokemon with a high retreat cost or something. That's more situational. There are some decks built around it, but for the most part, it's just here as I saw a video by I think YouTuber Soda TCG who talked about removal. Removal is not really a thing in Pokemon. I guess I wouldn't say, but they said
Mhm.
this is like the removal card.
Yeah, this feels like the closest thing that I've seen to like standard Magic interaction. I know the games are very different, but it's just like a cool little tricky trainer to like try to catch someone off guard. I don't know, and like playing around this just seems really awful. Like imagine if you suspected that somebody had this in hand, and like then how are you supposed to deploy any like basic Pokemon without just having them immediately getting destroyed? It sounds it sounds very unfun.
Yeah, no, I definitely say, as I said, it's a very obviously highly played card. So yeah, you're always thinking about that. If you need a like with the Gyarados EX, you need to play the Magikarp. So you need to play two Magikarps to guarantee that you'd have one in play next turn.
Oh
So
yeah.
that's something that people are always thinking about. And there are always to do it, but it is still something you are playing around. Again, you said it is the one supporter for the turn, so you're not like most of the other supporters draw cards. You are losing out on that, but it's still really good here.
hmm
But then we got the next card here. This is the item card Super Odd. You want to read it for us?
Uh, okay, Super Rod. Shuffle up to three in any combination of Pokemon and basic energy cards from your discard pile into your deck, and you may play any number of item cards during your turn. Okay, so this is going to shuffle up to three any combination of Pokemon and basic energy cards from your discard pile to your deck. When benched Pokemon, or I guess when Pokemon are defeated in general, do they go to discard?
Yeah.
Okay. Hmm.
And all the
What
energy will
about
go there as well. Or pretty
Gotcha.
much like if you lose it, it goes to the discard. Yeah.
Gotcha. And then also, what was I going to ask? Um, oh, when evolutions happen, you just play the evolution on top of the card, but it's not going into the discard pile, is it?
Um, what do you mean? Like when it's knocked out or immediately?
Immediately, like when you immediately evolve it.
Yeah, yeah. The like previous evolution will be like underneath it, just sitting there. They'll just still be where they are. Yeah.
Okay, and then when it's knocked out, they're all going to discard.
Yep.
Okay. Hmm. But it's into your deck. Um, is discard or I mean in Magic we would call it the graveyard. Is discard Is this like a your pile? Is this something that you're regularly playing out of, or is it more like when it gets there, it's gone for the most part, unless you have something like a super rod, because then that would be more like exile in Magic.
Yeah, with most trainer cards, it's very difficult to get them back from the discard pile, and also special energy, which don't really matter for this. But there are some ways to interact with energy from the discard. That's not uncommon. There's a very good card
Yeah.
in the standard format, Gardevoir EX, which just essentially gets any amount of psychic energy from your discard into play, which is like really good. Not every deck obviously does that, so this is certainly not the only card that does a similar effect to this, though.
Okay. I would say that right now I'm leaning more towards this isn't very effective. The reason why is because well, one, like you were saying, I think that like things like being energy being in the graveyard isn't necessarily a bad thing, unless I guess it's like the only energy that you have put into the deck. But I don't know if that sounds like um, very good to be like
Yeah,
so limited on energy that if it gets knocked out, you can't do anything unless you play Super Rod. Um, but the other reason too is that I don't really think that this does anything to advance your game plan. I mean, it's not putting anything out onto the I'm sorry, but battlefield is what I'm gonna call it.
yeah,
Um,
that's good. That's good.
it's not putting anything out onto the battlefield, and you're not drawing any cards. Really, I feel like you're just going down a card if you play this. I can't really see this being very good.
Okay, I actually have another card I think I wanna show you as well, which is a similar card to it. So you're saying Super Rod is bad.
Yes.
Okay, and then I'll send you this next card here called Night Stretcher. You'll notice some similarities immediately, and I wanna hear your thoughts. I sent it on Discord to you.
Put a Pokemon or basic energy card from your discard pile into your hand. I would say that this one is better. I like the other one seems unplayable to me. This one seems like at least playable. Um, Mostly just because I think like if you were saying that a lot of the decks revolve around attacking with one Pokemon in particular, and since this can get, either a basic Pokemon or like an evolution, right? Like it's not limited
Yeah.
to either or. Yeah, so if it does get knocked out, at least with this, you could get it back and still be able to play. Um, but I'm not like super fond of either, I think. But if I had to put one in my deck, it would be Night Stretcher.
Okay. Do you think it's good, or do you think it's just like meh, not super super impressive?
Mm, if I had to choose one, I would say it's leaning more towards good.
Okay, so both of these cards they're pretty good. Um,
They're both pretty good. Okay.
yeah, they both see a bunch of play. These are the main two cards to recover. As I said, there's a few effects that recover Pokemon and energy. These are the main two. There may, I guess, is a few for energy as well. But obviously, as you were saying, some decks just have like one main Pokemon to focus on, or like one copy of it as well sometimes. So you need to obviously recover in that situation. And both these cards do that. Obviously, Super Rod gets more cards, specifically with an evolution. You have like multiple pieces within that evolution line, and then that Pokemon might like you still need energy. Decks run. So how many lands are normally in like a competitive Magic deck?
Somewhere between like 16 to 24, depending on the archetype.
Wait,
Maybe
is
a
that
bit
in
more.
is that out of 60?
Yeah, that's in 60 card.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a lot higher than Pokemon. So yeah, Pokemon has a lot of searching options. So yeah,
Mhm.
Super Rod, you just toss it back into your deck and then you get it back out and play it. That's usually how it works. I'm trying to think, maybe like 10 energies, somewhere between maybe eight's average. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Somewhere in that range.
Oh wow.
That I'd say throughout the history. Maybe it's 10, maybe it's a little lower now. There's a card like, let me see. There's a card called Earthen Vessel. I mean, there's just a card that searches out an energy, a basic energy. Earthen Vessel gets two. You discard another card from your hand, though. There's a lot of item cards that search out Pokemon, which are played in pretty high counts in a lot of different decks. So as I said, Super Odd,
Hmm.
you don't get the card immediately. Night Stretcher is probably a bit better than Super Odd. Because it gets a card into your hand, but oftentimes you'll be able to search out that Pokemon pretty much instantly and then just be able to play it again. Additionally, there are certain effects where getting into your deck can be better if you like need to set up for later. That's pretty situational,
Yeah,
but
that's
yeah,
fair. I think another thing that I always underestimate, like both like the utility in terms of like tutoring or like searching your deck that the trainers provide, and then also that the amount of card draw. Like it's kind of like mind-boggling to me. Like when you say the trainer that just lets you discard your hand and then draw seven. If I had been thinking about that a bit more, I think like okay, it is acceptable to have a few cards like Super Rod that just do this one thing because you're already seeing so many other cards that having like a utility like this and then like chaining it with something else like the search. Yeah, I could see how that's good.
Yeah. And so these cards are the main recoveries. As I said, there's a few other ones, but like Palpad. I said it's hard to recover trainers. You can recover supporters with Palpad, which is two
Hmm.
supporters when you discard into your deck. Obviously similar idea to Super Odd. Then you might like draw it later on. But then we have the next card here. This is another Pokemon here. This is another actually it's another Terra EX like Gyarados, and it's Dragapult EX here.
Okay. Do you want me to read out the stats again?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so we have 320 HP. I'm not familiar with that type symbol. Is that dragon type?
Yeah, that's Dragon type. Dragon type is not a there's no basic energy for it as you see on the one attack. It's a fire and a psychic, but
Hmm.
yeah, it doesn't really matter too much for this, but yeah, that's what it is.
Okay. It has Jet Headbutt for 70, and that's a normal type attack. And then for Fire and Dark, it's Phantom Dive for 200. Put 6 damage counters on your opponent's benched Pokemon in any way you like. Okay. And then it has no weaknesses and no resistances as well. Another quick follow-up. So when this thing does do an attack, um, and I guess this is just a question for the game in general too. Does the damage type care about the Pokemon or like the symbols on the move?
It's the Pokemon. So Dragon type will not be hitting weakness on anything. There might be like some weird interaction where it could, but yeah, it's just it's the type of the Pokemon.
Okay. And then putting 6 damage counters on your opponent's bench Pokemon. Now, if it does 200, does Phantom Dive, if it hits, does it do 200 damage counters?
Um, well, so a damage counter. Oh, also, sorry, one thing you didn't say. This is a stage 2 Pokemon as well, which
Okay.
is meaningful there. But so a damage counter. It also obviously all damage is in terms of 10, right? So one damage counter is 10 damage. So this is doing
Okay.
60 damage on your opponent's bench Pokemon, um, spread out how you want. Um, and then 200 damage active, or you could say it's putting 20 damage counters on the active and 6 on the bench. But yeah, just like a terminology thing.
Gotcha. And then you said the stages was relevant. Does that mean so stage two it is a basic Pokemon of stage one?
No, a basic. There's a basic, then there's a stage 1, then there's a stage 2. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. That's interesting.
So this should be theoretically stronger than the Gyarados EX you saw earlier if they're the same power level. Because this is you need to evolve it an extra time. Or we'll say there's a card called Rare Candy which lets you evolve um, at the same speed as a stage 1 essentially, but it is a little funky as well there. There are a few ways to get evolved faster, but they're either more awkward or slower than stage 1 there.
Okay. Gotcha. Um, I think that like does okay, so when you're thinking about making a stage two Pokemon, does how well the stage one performs, is that very relevant?
I'd say in general, not usually.
Okay.
Yeah, certainly for
Hmm.
this card, just like judge it on what you see on it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was saying from looking at this, I don't think it seems super impressive. I just don't feel like it's doing that much, right? Like realistically, this thing is it's 2 energy for 260 damage in total, and I don't know. I just don't I don't think it's very good.
Okay. Oh, I will also say the previous evolution to this is pretty good. It's not like absurd or anything, but it is decent. It does add some value to it as well. I don't know if that would like change anything you have to say, but I did want to mention that.
I think my main thing is like trying to figure out if this if putting this on the battlefield is worth the effort of going through 3 evolutions. Like, could you be doing something better? And I feel like you've got to be able to be doing something better than this in standard. Like if you said that there's this is the most powerful cards, I can't imagine that this is the strongest out there. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think I'm gonna lean more towards this is a weaker card.
yeah. This is, I believe, currently the most played deck in the game. Um,
Oh, come on.
I actually, it might be the second. It kind of depends how you divide archetypes. Yeah, this is very good. I didn't want to say the stage one was super good. The stage one's not like absurd, but most of the time they don't really matter. It might have the best in the game. It has an ability you can use. I'll send it to you here, um, which, as I said, is like decent here. But you can take a look. I think you'll think it's very good. I'm not sure on that one, but you can take a look. It lets you look at the top two cards of your deck, put one to your
Oh,
hand, put
once
the
to
other
okay.
bottom.
Oh, that does actually. I actually do like that.
And
Yeah,
it is
can
good.
you use that while it's benched?
Yeah, you can use it. So you can get, generally this stack is going to be playing um, what, two or three copies of Dragapult EX, then four copies of the Dracloak there, just sitting on the bench there, drawing you cards throughout the course of the game. It's not an absurd amount of cards for the amount of investment, but it's definitely nice. Yeah,
Hmm.
but
Okay, well,
it's not played separately. But yeah, this card's very good.
mhm,
I mean, for two energy, it's quite efficient. Targeting your opponent's bench Pokemon can be good. As I said with Boss's Orders, targeting your opponent's bench Pokemon is good. This doesn't do it quite in the same way, but it is useful. It is like kind of difficult to deal with. It doesn't have weakness, which is nice. It technically doesn't. There's a card that can actually hit it for weakness, which sees a lot of play because this sees a lot of play. Um, but yeah, there's just not too much you can do about it once it's going. There are some things you can, but 260 for two energy is going to be pretty good here. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I thought that it looked very efficient. I just think that like if comparing it to Magic again, there's like a lot of creatures that come out and they have like a very efficient rate, but there's so many ways to shut down like really powerful, aggressive early game creatures that I always just assume that it's probably something similar, but again, I'm not super familiar with like the Pokemon TCG, and I don't know how dramatic really six damage counters on a bench Pokemon is. Like, because I was thinking of a lot of the basics that I've played with in like the very basic games that I've played. And 60 HP is the majority of their health, so within like two turns, it would take out bench Pokemon. Also, if a Pokemon is benched, and it gets KO'd, do they get a prize for that?
Yeah. Any Pokemon that's
Oh
knocked out
man, that's
has a prize.
terrible.
Yeah. And then honestly, just like 200 damage to the active is a lot as well. Like all the Pokemon you were
Yeah,
playing with
that's
would just
fair.
be one-shotted by it. So this is going to be
Hmm.
consistently two-shotting everything in the game, um, with a little extra. So even if they have a little bit of healing, it's still nice. There. And then there are other ways to like get damage counters on your opponent's bench Pokemon. So yeah, it just it's been a pretty strong card since it's come out. I don't remember if it was amazing immediately, but pretty quickly it was quite good. But then we have the next
Hmm.
card here. This is going to be a supporter card, which is Ortega here.
Okay, Ortega, your opponent reveals their hand and you choose a card you find there and put it on the bottom of their deck. If you put a card on the bottom of your opponent's deck this way, your opponent may draw a card. Okay. So with how many cards you draw in Pokemon, I imagine that like taking the best card out of their hand and then giving them one in return is not like a big deal at all. I mean, this is something that I would do in Magic, and I think card draw is a lot more important in Magic. I think that this would be playable. Um, Not amazing. I think it really depends on how important drawing like the most important card in your hand is going to be. Because I imagine that you play this on, turn one or turn two. Actually, you know what? I should ask this. If you're the first player, are you able to play a supporter on your first turn?
No, you're not allowed to.
Okay.
Only
I
going
think that
second.
oh, you said going second you would be able to though.
Yes.
Okay. Um, I think that's like a slight hit against this card, but not like something too significant. Um, but yeah, I imagine that like if somebody like so you might get someone with this card at the wrong time, and then they just can't play the game because you've taken like like if someone was banking on having a supporter that the discard and draw seven or something crazy like that, to draw five, um, then you just stop them from playing the game. But is removing one card that important? You is your opening hand five or seven?
It's 7, you need to start a basic Pokemon, so that's in play, and then you have 6 other cards. You could get more. The way mulligans work, actually, we'll get to that in a second, but um, yeah, you'll start with 7, but one's in play.
Oh man, this one's really hard to evaluate. I feel like it could really go either way, where it's like, no, in Pokemon TCG, just hitting one card is not that important, or oh yes, if you can play this early on and get rid of the most important card in their deck, like if they are playing like some kind of one trick evolution, you get rid of their basic that they need, or you get rid of their supporter that they need. It totally gimps them for the rest of the game. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna go with because in Magic, the card that this reminds me of is Thoughtseize. There's a card that is very similar. Now they don't draw a card off of Thoughtseize, but you do lose 2 life, which isn't very relevant. Just like how the downside of this card is draw a card. I don't believe that that'd be super relevant. And Thoughtseize is very good. It's like a tempo card. You just play it. Pretty much you're playing it and trying to hit what they would want to do on the following turn. And you put them a turn behind, and they've got to try to figure out what to scramble and put together a new game plan with that card wrong, or with that card gone. Sorry. And I think Ortega could do something similar. I'm gonna say that this card is good, or at least playable. I like it.
It is not played or playable. Oh, well, apparently
No,
someone played
dude.
this at some small tournament in Japan. But yeah, no, it's not removing one card from your opponent's hand can have value.
Hmm.
Like there's a current deck in standard featuring Mega Absol EX, which discards a card of your choice from your opponent's hand. There've been a few cards like that I've seen play. I personally actually don't think the Mega Absol deck is super good in standard. It's a deck that recently got really popular. Like a really good player played it at a tournament and did well with it. And online, you can see its like win rate. It was not played that much and had a really high win rate. Then a bunch of people played it, and how its win rate's like dropped a bunch. It's all right, but anyways, yeah, it's like you don't permanently get rid of that card, which again there is drawn search. So versus those other cards, which is discard cards, you can permanently run your opponent out of that resource, which can allow you to win games. And then your opponent, they get another card, then obviously they draw a card at the beginning of their next turn, and you're talking about it on like early turns. So they have a bunch of cards. It can be useful, but it just pretty risky. And again, it could be
Yeah.
crazy, but there are a lot of supporters that really get you into the game, or yeah, pretty much you want to get yourself set up, and here you're sacrificing that a turn of your setup for potentially hurting your opponent's setup.
Gotcha. Is was I at least right in the analysis that giving your opponent a single card draw is usually not that bad?
Um, I can't think of any other cards that do that, honestly. I mean, there's a supporter where each player shuffles their hand into their, or I guess on shuffles their hand, puts it on the bottom of their deck. There's a card for each prize they have remaining, which I guess gives them like cards, but it like gives them a new hand of cards, and so that's pretty
Hmm.
different. Um, I don't know. I mean, definitely giving him an extra card. I think if this didn't give him an extra card, it would be better. Might see some
Hmm.
play. I mean, you said like 2 life was on Thoughtseize, which is like almost nothing. Drawing a card is letting your opponent draw a card is definitely better than the
That's fair.
um than just like it's not nothing. It's and also like a cool thing about this is you know what your opponent has in their hand, and then you're giving them an extra card that you don't know in their hand. Instead of one, it's two,
Yeah.
which is like a lot. It's doubled. So it's I think there's something with this card. I think it might be a little underrated, but it's not great. Also, control in the Pokemon TCG is a lot worse than it is in Magic.
Yeah, yeah. And Thoughtseize is definitely more of a control card. I think the biggest thing that I overlooked with this one is definitely the you may only play one supporter card during your turn. I really didn't think about how taking your turn off, because there are times too in Magic as well where you'll play Thoughtseize and it's not very impactful. But Thoughtseize is like a 1 mana card, which is almost as cheap as it gets in Magic, so it's very low investment. Whereas this, with your supporters and with supporters being so powerful, I suppose, especially if you're doing this on turn one, it could really cost you, especially if it doesn't affect the opponent. You might as well be taking a turn off at that point.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But we have one more card before the final test here. And I will say the final test, I'd say I think might be a little. Yeah, I've certainly been trying to trick you. I'm not gonna pretend that I haven't. But this last card is. I'm gonna be completely honest. This last card is a weird card before the final one, or final set of cards. But that's Snorlax stall here, an item card, which has which is it's very unique.
Okay, so Snorlax Stall is an item that has health, which is already starting off interesting. If this card is in your hand when you are setting up to play, can you explain what that means?
Uh oh, so normally at the start of the game, you need a basic. You put a basic Pokemon from your hand face down in the active spot. Because if you don't know, if you don't have any Pokemon in play, you just lose.
Hmm.
So you put a Pokemon face down, and you can put some on your bench as well. Generally, it doesn't really matter if you put them down on your bench. It's generally not advisable to do so. But anyway, so you put them down. So you draw your opening hand, you put it down there, and then once the game starts, that'll be your active Pokemon there. So you can only do this before the game. Yeah, you can play it as a Pokemon with the stuff it says on it. I don't know if that explanation made a lot of sense. The card is weird, as I said.
No, it does make sense to me. So it seems like when you're setting up to play, you can put it face down, um, as if it were just like your basic Pokemon, and then at any time during your turn, you may discard this card from play. This card can't be affected by any special conditions and can't retreat. If this card is knocked out, your opponent can't take any prize cards for it. That is interesting.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so the closest thing that I can think of if I'm doing a Magic comparison is that this seems like a weird like pillow fort style card, and in Magic what that just means is like you're pretty much stalling the game until you're at a more advantageous position than you would be now. But it seems strange to me to want to start off the game pillow forting. Normally you would do that if you were at a disadvantage, like your opponent had like a lot of creatures and you couldn't really deal with it at the time. So you'd play something like a Glacial Chasm, and in Magic that pretty much just stops you from taking combat damage. And in this, it seems like you play this in the spot as your basic Pokemon, and then if it gets taken out, as long as you have another Pokemon on your bench, you don't really suffer any downsides, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Hmm. How do you take advantage of that? Is it how would you take is taking yeah, like what kind of deck would need extra time to set up in Pokemon? From what I've seen, they all seem everything seems fairly fast.
There are like some decks that are slower than others, certainly.
Hmm.
Like there's a card in standard called Badoo. It's a card that it attacks. I guess it like attacks. It doesn't really do much damage, but it stops your opponent from playing any items during their next turn. It's very weak as well in terms of HP. It's the minimum HP, it's the minimum damage, but it's free attack, and it allows you to slow down your opponent. So there are definitely some decks, like the Dragapult EX deck I showed you earlier, is generally a bit of a slower deck. Um,
Hmm.
when I say slower, maybe like I'd say a turn slower. It's nothing crazy, but there are
Hmm.
decks that kind of like to kind of play from behind, though not as much as you'd probably see in Magic, all that
Hmm.
often.
Okay. And okay, I'm gonna ask for like one small hint on this because I can understand why you would put it in your active spot. Um, but is there any like why would you want to put this on your bench? I don't see any benefit in putting it there.
Well, one reason is if you don't put it on your bench when you're setting up, you can't play it. So if you start with like multiple Snorlax stalls in your opening hand, and you want them all in play, then at least the one needs to be on your bench. And then the other reason is that once it's in the active, if you want it not in the active, right, you want to actually like start being aggressive, then you need to get it out of the active, right? You cannot retreat with it. So there are certain ways to get it out. There's a card switch, and there's just a bunch of effects like that. But that's
Mhm.
like a resource that you're kind of committing there. So you need to then discard Snorlax Stall, and then it's not in play anymore. So if you wanted it later on, um, you could put it on your bench there. But I'd say don't worry too much about that.
Okay. And then the last question I was gonna ask, um, once it's on the battlefield, it turns face up, right? Like or in
Yeah.
the active spot. Okay. Okay, so your opponent will know what this is. Um,
And I want to say again, it's only playable during the setup phase, so it's only
Mhm.
playable if you happen to draw in your opening hand of 7 cards there.
Yeah. Okay. So from what I can tell from this is that genuinely if you get this card in your opening hand, like it's actually useful. Um and then at any point after the opening turn, it's a total dud and it has nothing, it provides no value.
Yeah.
And actually it's the opposite because it's taking a draw away from you. And then also, I mean, I guess you could say that the same thing with your opening hand too. If you do draw this, that I mean, you could draw something that is actively working towards your plan, and you get this instead. Um, because I can't imagine that you can actually do anything with this. It doesn't seem like it can attack or do anything special. So it's just a pretty much a punching bag at the start of the game. Is that good enough? I don't know. Um, I want to lean towards it's not good, but then you're gonna tell me that this is like the most played card of all time, and I'm gonna feel stupid again because it's just free health, but it just doesn't do anything, and it seems like drawing this on a later turn just seems so bad. Like it could be the difference between winning and losing because you get this in your hand. I think it's a cool card. I think it's like awesome, and I would love to play a deck that has this in it, but I don't think it's good. No, just lay it on me. It's just
Yeah, no, this card is terrible. It's like so bad. It's
okay.
like horrendously awful. Again, you can't play it during the game. Like you literally can't ever play it.
Yeah.
And you can't control your mulligans, right? So you can't choose to
Yeah.
mulligan. So you have like a chance to start it, but it's not that high, even if you play 4 copies. And then you're playing 4 of these cards, and then you have these like useless cards. I will say it is a fun card, just like you said. I made a
hmm
deck with it. It's really bad, but it's funny. Funnily enough, you can actually control your mulligans if you have this as your only option to start. Uh, you have no basics. You can choose to start this or not start it, which is like kind of funny. Um, but like buying time is a little. It's like all right. If it was there are cards like this that you can play, or not in standard, but there was a card like this. Which had a lot less HP, but it allowed you to play it whenever, which was like pretty good. It wasn't absurd, but it actually in expanded another format, it's good. People don't really play expanded, so I'm not very familiar with the metagame. But yeah, Snorlax
hmm
stall is really bad. It's essentially unplayable in the most literal sense of the word. The upside is pretty mediocre. But now we're moving on to the final 4 cards here, and these are the 4 Ogerpon EXs. These are 4 basic Pokemon. They all have the same HP and retreat cost, I guess. And I will say that there was a card that interacts with them. It can like switch them with each other. That card doesn't really matter for this, so that's why I'm not showing it to you. But yeah. Oh, also they do have different names. I don't know if that really matters to you, but I did want to mention that there. But yeah, these are 4 cards, and this is the final challenge for you. You've gotten some of these right, you've gotten some of them wrong. I think you've like learned stuff along the way, hopefully. But we have these 4 cards. I'll say at least one of these cards is good, and at least one of these cards is bad. All the cards are either good, or each card is either good or bad. There aren't any that are kind of meh. But yeah, I want to see if you're able to figure out which is which.
Okay. So I'll start with Teal Mask, Ogerpon EX. 210 HP with Teal Dance. Once during your turn, you may attach a basic energy card from your hand to this Pokemon. If you attached energy to a Pokemon this way, draw a card. Oh wow. And then Myriad Leaf Shower for 30. This attack does 30 more damage for each energy attached to both active Pokemon. Okay. Okay, I might have missed something when you were describing this. So when you play the mask, there's 2 active Pokemon?
No. Wait, what? Oh, both actives, like yours and your opponent's.
Okay, okay. Okay, that's pretty cool. I can already tell you right now that I'm biased towards liking this card. Whether or not it's good.
Okay.
Um 210 HP isn't like the most of all time, right? Like
Yeah,
that's
it's
would you
like
say that's like average,
yeah, maybe a little below average. It's fine.
a
It's
little
just
below
whatever.
average? Okay. Okay, so to use this, you need to have at least 3. So it's doing a minimum of 90, but it does more each. But you were saying that most competitive decks only are running around 10 energy, which is not a lot. And like so if you were using the majority of your energy, yeah, so you would stack up all the energy in your deck and this could hit for 300 plus. I mean, whatever your opponent's doing, but I imagine if 5 energy is enough to make the Gyarados or Gyarados EX bad, then your opponent's probably not going to be having a lot of energy on their Pokemon.
Yeah.
uh
Yeah, I'll say
so-
normally it would be like I'd say two's a pretty normal number. It could be like three, could be less. It depends, but yeah.
So let's say because of this, in a good scenario, right? You somehow stumble upon 4 of your basic energy, you put that on there, and your opponent has 2. That would be what, 30 times. So that'd be 180 for 6. Uh
You
oh,
could
but
do
this is a
30 more,
basic.
but
Oh,
yeah,
this is a
yeah, these are
basic
all
Pokemon.
basics. Yep.
Can these evolve?
No, they cannot evolve.
Okay. Hmm. Well, for a basic Pokemon, that actually seems like a lot different.
Let's move on to the next one, then you'll
Okay.
think about them
Okay.
all at the end.
Think about them all at the same time. Okay. So Cornerstone Mask, Ogerpon, EX 210 HP, just like the last one. This one.
Sure. Sounds good.
All right. So looking at Cornerstone Mask, it has 210 HP. That's a ground type, right?
Yeah, well, it's
Or fighting
fighting.
type.
Yeah.
Fighting type. Okay. Oh man, it's been a long time since I played Pokemon games, so I'm not familiar with them anymore. It has prevent all damage from attacks done to this Pokemon by your opponent's Pokemon that have an ability. I'm not really sure how relevant that would be. Like I've seen like a lot of Pokemon cards that don't have abilities, like they just do damage. And okay, well, I feel like this might be a bit of an obvious question, but an ability has the that bright red text and it says ability, correct?
Yeah. I will say in terms of competitive or more serious Pokemon, more Pokemon have abilities versus like as you said, there's a lot of cards without the abilities. But I'd say a good chunk of good Pokemon have abilities. They certainly don't all though, like Dragapult EX earlier.
Okay, and also, this might have just been like a coincidental trend from things I've seen, but it seems like a lot of the ones that are like phase 1 or 2 lack them. Is that common, or is that just from my like small
Um,
selection pool of cards?
so generally like previous evolutions, so like a final evolution is going to be obviously the best card there, and then the previous evolutions are generally like bad. They're pretty kind of filler a lot of the times, except for
Hmm.
like say the Dracoloak that I mentioned earlier. But most of the time they're pretty filler. And then stronger card like inability obviously makes the card stronger, so a lot of them just don't have abilities there. But the ones that are like um, the final evolutions, I think it's probably the ratio is pretty similar for the different stages.
Okay, okay, that's good to know. All right, and then lastly we have demolish for 3 energy. This attack's damage isn't affected by weakness or resistance or by any effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. Okay. And it has a weakness to grass type too. Hmm. Okay, this one's interesting. I have a bit of an opinion on it already, but you wanted me to save those all until we're at the end, right?
Yeah, you could like give me your quick rundown here.
Okay, my quick rundown is that I just don't I don't like this one as much as the teal mask. It's simply because I think like 3 energy is kind of a big ask, and demolish seems a little bit underwhelming. I think it is nice that it has the utility of not being affected by like weakness resistance and all the bonus effects, but 140 just it just doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like a lot. I mean, it's kind of hard to say though because since they're all basics, um, like this could be out really quickly, I suppose. But if unless you have any additional ways to do it, that'd be 3 turns. I mean, so somebody could have, theoretically speaking, right? Someone could have a phase 2 Pokemon by the time you even are able to demolish for the first time, right?
Um, yeah, I mean there are ways to get energies on Pokemon quickly. It's not like I wouldn't worry. I mean, I'd worry some about the energy cost. Obviously, less is better. More colorless energies is better, but
Hmm.
yeah, I'd say that there are ways to get the energy on, um, to an extent there, but you would need to
Mhm.
spend resources to do it.
And as far as the ability goes, Cornerstone stance, I actually do think that's really good. I think that against certain Pokemons and like I mean, maybe certain decks, like that just totally shuts down their primary source of damage if it just so happens to have an ability on it. Um, but I also don't think that that's enough to like make or break a card on its own
Uh-huh.
uh, for now. Uh, but I think that's about it
Uh-huh.
that I've got for this one. All right, and then next up, there's Hearthflame Mask, 210 HP, just like the other ones. This one's a fire type. It has two attacks. Okay, so Wrathful Hearth. This attack does 20 damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. That's interesting. Is okay for that. I do have a question. Is self damage an archetype? Are there ways to put damage counters on your own Pokemon
Um,
intentionally?
there are some, but they're not super common. I guess they're not super common in high amounts, so you could
Hmm.
definitely get some damage counters on you. I'm trying to think like maybe get 40 or 60 on you, with not a crazy amount of effort. You're not gonna be able to just put as much as you want, or anything like that, though. It's definitely a bit of a commitment there. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, and then the other thing that you've got is Dynamic Blaze. So 140 base, it seems. If your opponent's active Pokemon is an evolution, this attack does 140 more damage and discard all energy from this Pokemon. That is a lot more interesting. I actually really like that ability. Um, how do you start to evaluate this though? With Wrathful Hearth, realistically, it doesn't sound like that's going to be something that you have much control over. And if you don't have much control over it, that means that your opponent has control over it. And I don't think that anyone who's playing at a competitive level is going to be feeding into Wrathful Hearth intentionally.
Yeah.
Um, so realistically, this Pokemon has one ability most of the time, and that's Dynamic Blaze, and is 3 fire for an evil, and again, that's something that your opponent's gonna see, and so they'd have to play into. I don't know. I think that this one's too reliant on your opponent making a mistake to be good. I mean, there is also something to be said about like just having it out there means that your opponent's more hesitant to attack and evolve unless they can immediately benefit from it. But that has to be significant enough to outweigh the downside of it. It is just really isn't effective on its own if your opponent's ignoring it. And
Yeah.
and not to mention also discarding all the energy too kind of sucks.
Yeah. Speaking of the evolution thing, most decks will have one main Pokemon.
Hmm.
So like if it's an evolution, you kind of have to play it. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, you won't really be able to like say, oh, I'm just like my opponent's doing more to evolution, so I'm not going to play evolution. So that's not really going to be something viable because then you pretty much can't like do anything. Um, but then some of the evolutions you're not necessarily one-shotting them, but some you are.
Hmm. Yeah. You know, I mean 280 damage, I mean, from what I've seen, that's not like anything really to scoff at.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and then let's see, we've got the last one, which is Wellspring Mask, 210 with Sob for 1 energy. During your opponent's next turn, the defending opponent Pokemon can't retreat. And then Torrential Pump. You may shuffle 3 energy attached to this Pokemon into your deck. If you do, this attack also does 120 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Don't apply weakness and resistance for bench Pokemon. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Is that like a universal thing, or is that just this Pokemon's effect?
Yeah, the weakness resistance for bench Pokemon.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's universal. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Sob seems interesting. I'm not really sure how I would rate it though. I mean, the damage is negligible, but hmm. I mean, I think like as an ability, this would be like game breaking. Like, imagine if it didn't even do the damage, but you could just like use this once a turn or something to prevent your opponent from swapping. But when this is your active, a Pokemon doing that every turn doesn't seem to be super impressive. Now, Torrential Pump though, you get rid of 3 energy, and it does 120 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. That seems all right. I don't know. I know that we've been through this in the other one. What was it, Dragapon? That one that did 60 to bench. That
Oh
was
yeah,
good.
yeah,
But
Dragapult, yeah.
yeah, but this I don't know. This doesn't seem to be able to compare to that. I can't imagine this one's nearly as good. But yeah, no, I think already towards this one, I'm leaning towards not liking it very much. Sob is nice utility though.
So do you have a like a final verdict here, or something you still need to decide on here?
Yes, you saying that none of them are meh does make this a little bit harder. But I can go through each of them. For Teal Mask Ogerpon, I actually think that I do like this. When I was initially going over it in my mind, I was thinking about, like the tin, and you're just not likely going to have a lot of energy on your Pokemon, nor is your opponent likely to have a lot. But like you were saying with the Hearthflame one, I mean, you can't really just choose to not play energy in Pokemon TCG. Like you just can't do anything if you don't.
Yeah.
So they have to play into it at least a little bit just to get anything done. Um, and I feel like I don't know. I just feel like this could be like a really nice tempo piece. Like right, like you get this down early, and then someone already they've just playing like a basic Pokemon, and like in two like one or two turns, you're already threatening right, like 120 to 160 or sorry, 120 to 150 damage. I mean that doesn't really seem to be anything to scoff at, really. I mean I could be totally wrong with it, but I do like this one. I would lean more towards this one being good.
Okay.
Um, do you want me to do them all first, or
Yeah, and then I'll reveal them all at the end, and then I'll break it down for you.
okay? So teal teal mask, I would say is good. Cornerstone mask. Um, I don't know. It just seems too slow, and man, if I think about it, I just gave teal a mask for doing 150 within, but it also with teal mask it has it built into the card for you to be able to put bonus energy on it, whereas this one doesn't. And I do think that that's significant. I think for this one, the most important thing is this one's more like a meta check, right? If there's a lot of Pokemon that have abilities that are like dominating and running through the meta, I think that this card's better. But if there's a lot of ways for Pokemon or for players to play around like this ability in particular, then this one's like a little bit more mediocre. Like I think it's a little bit slower, and the damage output isn't it's just not as impressive. Um, so I think my verdict on this one is if that other I keep on forgetting the name of it, but it's the one that does 200 damage and distributes
Yeah,
60.
yeah, Dragapult.
Yeah, Dragapult. Okay. If cards like Dragapult are dominating the meta, this can't be good. There's no way. So I'm gonna say no for this one.
Okay.
And then Heart Flame, Earth Flame Mask. Um, hmm, I don't. I'm also leaning more towards I don't like this one. Um, I should ask though, is the weakness very relevant in Pokemon?
Um, it's like a matchup thing. So if you're like in a
Yeah.
matchup with weakness, it matters. But I'd say it doesn't really define a deck or a card. There's a few cards it defines, but it doesn't. I'll say it doesn't really define any of these cards. Um, yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. With that in mind, I'm also leaning towards I don't like this card very much.
Okay.
I don't think it's very good. And then our last one is Wellspring Mask. Um, this one this one I actually do like. The reason why is because I think it plays into itself pretty nicely. Like you can stall with Sob, and then if your opponent can't do anything to stop it, then you just keep using Sob for 3 turns on their active Pokemon, and then eventually you can Torrential Pump, and that would be what 140 for 2 turns of sobbing, and then another 100 on that, and then you could also hit a bench Pokemon. That seems really, really hard to deal with. Like I can't imagine if you don't have anything in hand to stop that. How do you play around it? Now, okay. So if the defending Pokemon can't retreat, can a an item like Switch still swap them out?
Yeah, it can.
Okay, that is important to know. But I also still think that that demands an answer, though. So it's still not terrible. I like Wellspring Mask Ogerpon. I'm very willing to be told that I'm wrong about this one, but I do like it. I think it's cool.
Okay.
So I want it to be good.
Okay. So you think Wellspring and Teal Mass are good, then Hearthflame and Cornerstone are bad?
Yes, but I also want to caveat that I am I could totally be wrong about Cornerstone. I just don't know enough about the meta for me to be super solid on it, but I want to lean towards bad because it seems like a slow card.
Okay. So I'll start with Teal Mask here. This one is good. I'm not gonna lie, your analysis was pretty off on it.
Oh,
But
that's tragic.
this card is good. This card is good. It's probably the best of them. No, it is. I imagine most people in the comment section would say this is definitely the best of them. I'd maybe push back a little, but it's very good. But it's good for the ability. Um, there are some ways to move the energy to other Pokemon. They're like they exist. They're not super common, but they exist. And when this card came out, I believe, or maybe a little bit after it came out, people were using this ability mostly for moving the energy off. There are also other Pokemon that can discard energy from other Pokemon, which can be useful. There's a deck, Raging Bolt EX, that uh, works with Tumas Ogerpon EX, and you get a bunch of energies, grass energies on some Ogerpons. You discard them with Raging Bolt EX, and you just do a ton of damage that way. The attack has some value, but it's more so. Funnily enough, actually, it's mostly useful if you're hitting for weakness. You're hitting if you have three, your opponent has two, you're hitting 180 there, which is like kind of meh. But if you're hitting for weakness, you're probably one-shotting him. So it has some use cases there. But it's mostly used for its ability. It's been good in a few different decks for a while. It's definitely seen the most play of the four. Then the next one, Corso Masogarpon EX here, has is good. Yeah, this one is good. There are a lot of cards with
Okay.
abilities. As I said, if you're there are some decks with pretty much every deck has one main attacker. And if it has an ability, you just kind of lose, right?
Hmm.
So you can just kind of auto win some matchups there. Um, right now, it's seeing a bunch of play. It's pretty good within the Absol box deck, which some people are playing. It's not like absurdly good, but when it's good, it's really really good. Then the
Yeah.
Hearthflame one, the Fire one, yeah, your analysis was really good here. It's just kind of meh. Your opponent, like, it's kind of dependent on your opponent. The first attack is very much dependent on your opponent. The second attack is all right. It's honestly kind of hard to power up. The other three, well, no, the first one powers itself up, kind of. The grass one. The other two are only one energy of their type. So you can use different source of energy acceleration. You're familiar with toolbox decks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're played in toolbox decks. Honestly, the other three have all been played together. Not necessarily because they're all like the same Pokemon, but they haven't played together. The Fire one just doesn't really have a place in the game. It's not literally unplayable, but it's kind of meh there. Kind of meh as in it's like bad, meh,
Hmm.
not mediocre competitively, but mediocre among all cards. And then the water one is good, yeah, like you said. Sob, trap your opponent. A Pokemon can be good. It can be a way to win. Like you can get a Pokemon stuck forever. Oh, I guess in standard
Hmm.
you can't actually do it because you'll eventually knock him out, but you can get him stuck for a long time. It can be useful. In the past, there are ways to do it forever, and you could just win off of that. But then the second attack, Torrential Pump, doing 120 to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon is good here. Um, that's knocking out most single prize bench Pokemon there, so that's going to be really nice. And then your active damage is all right. You can knock out two of your opponent's single prize Pokemon. I said earlier with boss's orders, your opponent would need to play down two Pokemon to guarantee that they can play the evolution next turn. But here they might need to do three because you can knock out two. So that's like there's not really any counter to that. And then there is like actually one card that literally counters it, but it's actually a newer card and it doesn't make this card irrelevant by any means. And then also, funnily enough, there's this like weird ruling thing. Most of the rules in the Pokemon TCG are really simple, but this one's a little weird. It says you may shuffle 3 energy from this Pokemon into your deck, and then if you do, you do one 20 points bench Pokemon. There is a card that makes this attack cheaper, and then you can shuffle in. So if it costs 2, you can shuffle in the 2 energy, and you still do the 120 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Um, the reason actually for some of the weird rulings is because of course Pokemon is Japanese, so then the cards are translated. It gets a little weird, but yeah, this card is good. So what are your thoughts on hearing these analyses?
I'm really disappointed in myself for not thinking about Teal Mask Ogerpon being able to switch energy around. I think that that is by far the coolest part of the card. And personally, of all the cards that I've seen in the game so far, Wellspring Mask Ogerpon is definitely my favorite. Um, and then on Cornerstone Mask, I do think that that's fair. What you said about it totally shutting down some decks. That was why I didn't immediately just want to write the card off because I was thinking like, okay, like if your Pokemon has an ability like prevent all damage from attacks done to this Pokemon is that seems like an insanely powerful keyword,
Yeah.
just for the card existing. But I also was thinking like in certain matchups. So is this card still good even if it like let's pretend that the ability is erased because none of the opponents have Pokemons with abilities. Is this card still any good?
No, not really. It's theoretically, I guess if your opponent has a Pokemon that you can't hit through, your attack can deal with it. Actually, the reason why it has you'll see this in a lot of cards is if they have an ability that stops your opponent from doing damage in some form, they'll have an attack that hits through it. So if two of them are against each other, they like go through or something. I think that's the reason why, but no, it's pretty underwhelming. I mean, you're talking about the Teal Master Pond and that just doing more damage. It's doing like a similar amount of damage, but it gets the energy on and draws your card. So, um,
Hmm.
yeah, that's going to be the the Cornerstone Master Pond EX's attack is pretty lackluster. If you have like essentially like as many turns as you want to power it up, it gets the job done. But yeah, other than that, it's kind of meh.
Yeah. No, I think everything else it seems fair. I could totally see why things line up the way they do. But yeah, the Wellspring Mask is such a cool card. It just seems like one of those just horrific control cards, like when you don't have an answer to it in Magic, and you just every turn you're just slowly bleeding out, and this just you just know the end is coming. I love cards like that.
Yeah, there's definitely control in the Pokemon TCG is really interesting in Magic. Or was it Wizards? They print a lot of cards for control, right?
Yes, oh, a ton, every
Um,
single set.
so Pokemon isn't really that way. The But do control decks? How do they win in Magic usually?
Usually the idea is that you try to out-resource your opponent, right? So they deploy their threats early, you take care of their threats, and then your deck is set up to just be able to generate resources much faster later in the game.
Yeah. Okay. Wait, and then like, do you win by them? You reduce their life
The
total to
win,
0, or you deck them out, or
yeah,
just whatever?
it's kind of whatever. Most of the time, though, they do reduce life totals to 0.
Okay. So in Pokemon, like you can't really. Oh, I guess you use what like removal and stuff to like get their creatures out of play.
Yeah,
Yeah. So in Pokemon, if you did that, you just win. Because they don't have
yeah.
any Pokemon in play, or you take all your prizes and then you're just a regular deck. So, um, normally control decks want to stop your opponent from attacking at all. So as I said, you could use Sob. You could use Sob. There's a card that reduced your attack cost, or no, your damage by 20, so then it goes to 0. And then you get a Pokemon that they can't attack with in the active, like we didn't cover any today, but there's a bunch of like support Pokemon that are only used
Wait.
for their
Well,
ability.
does this could the Snorlax count? Oh, I guess the Snorlax can't retreat.
Yeah. Um. Oh no, but the Snorlax can discard itself, so
Yeah.
that that's you can't trap that. But you can trap a Pokemon, then your opponent can't do anything, and then eventually they'll deck out like 30 turns later or whatever. So um, that's something that you'll see. And then, funnily enough, mentioning Snorlax, there is a card Snorlax, which so Snorlax Doll, the card. is not very good. So there's a deck that rotated a little while ago called Snorlax Stall, which sounds very similar to Snorlax Doll. Every time I say Snorlax Doll, everyone's response is, "Oh, I don't like that deck," which of course is something different. But that deck has the Snorlax has an ability called Block. If it's in the active, your opponent's active can't retreat. So that's very similar here. And people would play this, and they pretty much just leave Snorlax in the active, and they'd like play a bunch of cards like Boss's Orders and similar cards to get a Pokemon stuck in the active, and that's it. Like yeah, it was really boring, really easy to play, and yeah. And then there's some really, but right now in standard controls, like super complicated, because Pokemon doesn't print control cards. So I want to quickly pull up a control deck here, um, and so you're gonna have, generally you're gonna be having options that remove or disrupt your opponent's energies, as well as essentially stop them from playing resources. There's a lot of different things. It's really complicated. It's really cool. But yeah, players seem to generally find like kind of workarounds, cards that end up being more powerful than maybe Pokemon intended because they don't really intend for control to be such a big part of the game there.
Hmm.
But overall, what are your thoughts on the cards you saw today?
I think I don't know. I liked most of them. I'm still the most one that I'm shocked about is Dragapult. I could have seen when I was discussing it, I was thinking that yeah, this card could definitely be playable, but there was in no world that I thought that it was one of the strongest cards in Standard. So that's definitely something to take note of looking forward. And just seeing the like when a card is good, how important would you say energy efficiency is in making a card good?
Um, it's pretty important. I'd say generally you could say it's the most important thing, or stage, which, like, funnily enough, it's a stage two. There have definitely been times
Mhm.
when everyone just plays basics, but certainly not right now. But there are ways to get energy onto your board, like with TMS Ogerpon EX. Funnily enough, paired with Dragapult EX, there's a card, Regidrago V-Star, which is essentially a stage one there, and it had a 3 energy attack cost, kind of expensive. You'd put a bunch of energies on your grass Ogerpon, move them to your Regidrago. It's a little clunky, but you could get it powered up in one turn. There is a way to get Dragapults, get the 2 energy on in one turn. People don't actually really use it that much, but that is possible. So it needs to be payable. I'd say it needs to be payable in one turn, but it doesn't need to be cheap on the card. Obviously, being cheap on the card makes it better, but um, some decks, like as I said, Gardevoir EX, the deck I mentioned earlier, where it gets as much energy essentially as you want from your discard into play. So then you have a lot of different options there, but it definitely depends. But energy cost is important.
Mhm. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, but I hope everyone enjoyed the video today. A bit of a longer one here. Thank you so much, Funky Fizz, for joining the channel here today. And everyone down below, make sure you like and subscribe, and also leave down below any suggestions for videos in the comments. And I hope you enjoyed. And as always, I'm excited to see you in the next video.